Hi everyone, I welcome you all to this particular session in which we are going to talk about how we can encrypt an S3 bucket using KMS, and we'll try to monitor the activities of that particular S3 bucket with the help of AWS CloudTrail, right? This will be the topic of this particular session. In this particular session, we are going to perform all the practical activities using AWS Management Console, and this particular video will walk through to the AWS Key Management Service, AWS Simple Storage Service, and AWS CloudTrail Service. We will be creating a custom encryption key using our key management service, and we will try to use it to encrypt the objects of S3 bucket, and we will try to configure the CloudTrail so that we'll be able to watch the S3 events. That will be the agenda of this particular video, right? Now, before starting, let me just talk about the different services which we are going to talk about in this particular session. The very first service we have, Fox, is AWS S3. This AWS S3 is a simple storage service. It's a simple storage service. That's why we called it as an S3. Now, a lot of companies, today need the ability to simply store and to retrieve and to analyze a vast amount of data, right? So that's why companies are, using Amazon Simple Storage Service so that they can store massive amount of data. Now, this simple storage service is an object-based storage. Simple storage service is an object-based storage. That means whatever the content you are going to upload inside this Amazon S3 bucket, that particular thing will be considered as an object. An object can be your image file, an object can be your video file, an object can be your audio file, and any text file as well. All these things will be considered as an object. You can retrieve that data from anywhere, and from with any type of devices, right? So you can use that particular S3, which is an object store, so that you can store and retrieve any amount of data from anywhere, be it websites, maybe mobile applications, commercial applications, and any type of devices you can access that. The simple storage service is designed with 11 and 11 nines of durability. That is 99.9999 total 11 nines of durability you will be getting with Amazon Simple Storage Service, and you can store data for millions of applications, right? So that is what is your simple storage service. Now, the simple storage service is a very providing you the comprehensive security with the server side encryption, which is called as SSE. It is also provide you customer side encryption. It will also provide some bucket policies, and you have the ACLs. These are the different permission policies we have, and this server side encryption and customer side encryption we have, so that you can encrypt your data in this particular Amazon S3 service, right? Now, second service which we are going to talk about in this particular session is our AWS KMS. KMS. Now, this KMS stands for Key Management Service. Key Management Service. Now, this key management service, that is, it makes easy for people, or it's easy for us, so that we can create and we can control the encryption keys. What type of encryption keys we can create, or we can control? Basically, these keys are used to encrypt the data, and it will also uses the HSM model, the hardware security modules, which is a hardware used for encryption keys, so that your keys will be protected in this particular hardware, right? Now, this AWS KMS is basically integrated with several AWS services, so that it will able to help customers to protect the data, that whatever the data we are going to store inside this particular S3, right? And we can manage our encryption keys with the help of this key management service. The third main service we are going to talk about is AWS CloudTrail service. Again, it is an monitoring service, right? that is basically enables people governance, compliance, your operational auditing, and the risk auditing of your AWS account. Now, with the help of this CloudTrail, we can log, we can monitor, and we can retain the account related activities to actions across your AWS infrastructure. Whatever the people are doing inside your AWS account, whether it's your admin, it's your database admin, it's your any type of user inside your organization, are they are doing something inside your AWS account, you can monitor that. All the API activities with the help of this AWS Cloud Trail, you can continuously monitor that thing, right? Now, this CloudTrail will basically provide all the events and all the API calls which will be made inside your AWS account. You can monitor all these activities, including the actions taken through the console, maybe with the help of the software development kit and the command line tools of the AWS and other AWS services as well. You can monitor all the things inside your AWS account with the help of AWS CloudTrail. Now, this is a basic overview of this particular session, which we are going to, talk about. Now, let me just take you to the AWS Management Console. Over here, you can see over here, we are on the AWS Management Console. And now in this, let me just again log in the AWS Management Console. Just allow me for a couple of seconds. Let me just sign out from this account and let me again log in with my root account credentials, so that will not be facing any type of permissions issues. Maybe we will be accessing the KMS, the simple storage service, and the CloudTrail service. So I don't want to be any type of error in between. We are performing this entire lab activity. Okay. Now, there are several tasks which we are going to perform in this particular, lab activity, in which the very first task we have is that we need to create some customer managed keys with the help of AWS KMS. So you can see over here, when we are searching for key management service, you can see you can securely generate and store your keys which you can create for the encryption part across your AWS account for your different AWS services, right? Now, the very first thing is that we need to click on this particular option of create a key. Now, we have multiple options over here. Now, the very first thing we have is that key type. Which type of key you want to create? You want to create a symmetric key or you want to create an asymmetric key? Now, what are the basic difference? Symmetric key will give you a single key which you can use for both the parts, whether it's an encrypting or you're decrypting the data. And asymmetric key will be a public and a private key pair you will be getting. You can use for encrypting and decrypting your data, whether that will be a different keys for the different purposes, right? Now, in our case, we are going to create a symmetric key. And what will be your key uses? I want to use this key for encrypt and decrypt the data, right? Click on next. Now we have multiple options available over here. Now the option is add the labels over here. You can see add labels. Now we need to add some details. Now under this particular option of define key administrator permissions over here, you can see step number 3. Sorry. First we need to give alias over here. So let me just enter alias as maybe we can say this is our first KMS key. That will be the name we are providing as an alias to this particular key. And in this particular description, we can put like as we are creating this KMS keys to maybe encrypt our S3 bucket. That is what is the description of this particular symmetric key which we are going to create. Now this is our define any administrator permissions, any type of permissions you want to give to this particular key you are generating. We have some key administrators, so you can select the role that is particularly associated with the with this particular account maybe you are working with. For an example, let me just uh, over here. So we have to choose the IAM users and role who can admin. In our case, we are using our own, the root account. So there is maybe no need to choose a particular role for that. And then just we'll click on the next button. So we are not adding any type of permissions over here, or it is just okay. Next, and just the configuration over here, and just this is the policy which is going to be attached to this particular key. You can see over here that enable IAM user permissions effect will be allow, and you can see the root account added over here, so that I will be able to access every key and which we are creating with this particular this help of this KMS on all the resources, right? So that's why I have not used any type of role over here. So let me just click on this finish button. Now you can see that we have successfully created our first KMS key. With the help of this key ID, you will be able to identify the key over here. You can see the status is enabled now and the key type is symmetric, right? So that's the very simple process to create a customer managed keys, right? So you can copy the key ID and you can paste it in the notepad, because we are going to use in the later part. Let me just okay, yeah, let me just copy this key ID from here, and let me just open my notepad so that I will be able to paste over here. Okay, let me first cross this and let me just paste it over here. Okay, I have pasted over here, and let me just okay. Now we will be going to our simple storage service, our second service for this session, in which we will be creating an S3 bucket. So this is my bucket section over here. You can see this is the Amazon S3 homepage. Let's click on the create bucket button. Now what is this bucket? Bucket is nothing but a container which will be having all the data which you want to upload inside your Amazon S3. So you need to create a bucket. Now some general configurations over here, in which you will be providing that I need to create a general purpose bucket, and bucket name you have to provide. Bucket name should be globally unique, so we are creating a bucket for bucket encryption using KMS. That is what is bucket we are creating, right? And after providing the name, you need to provide the ACLs or the object ownership. As of now, you can see over here that ACLs are by default disabled, but I am going to enable those access control list, so that I want that whatever the objects will be inside that particular bucket, which can be owned by other AWS accounts as well, because to this particular bucket and the objects of this particular bucket can be accessible using, if we'll be specifying the access control list, then everyone will able to access all the objects and the data from this S3 bucket to which we are going to provide the permissions, right? And the object ownership will be the object writer. So you and whoever is going to upload the object inside that particular bucket will remain the owner of all the objects inside that particular bucket. Next, we have the option of block public access setting. By default, it is turned on. So we are blocking all the public access inside this S3 bucket, which is a best practice to secure the data of your S3. And we will be having some encryption options over here. So don't see these options. You can leave all the settings default and just click on this create bucket button. So you can see this name. Okay, we cannot use capital letters, so I am just using small letters over here, and let's click on this create bucket option. Now bucket has been created. One KMS key is also created inside our AWS account. Two things we have done. So we have this bucket encryption KMS, and we have a key as well. Now let's move towards the next task, that is we need to go to the CloudTrail service. So let's move towards the CloudTrail. So we'll be configuring, or we'll be creating a CloudTrail, and we will be trying to configure this CloudTrail in such a way so that it to store the events in the S3. So whatever the events, so whatever the logs will be created by the CloudTrail and the event history will be stored inside Amazon S3 basically. So in this particular task, we will be creating a CloudTrail and will be configure it to store KMS activities in S3 bucket. Okay. So this is the dashboard of the CloudTrail service. You can see over here. Let's go to this particular trail section over here, and we will be creating a trail over here. So let's click on this create trail over here. First, you need to provide name to the trail. So the name should be like S3 KMS trail we are creating. Storage location, you should use existing S3 bucket. Well, let's click on browse, and this bucket encryption KMS bucket which we have already created, we will be selecting that because we want that the activities should be stored inside this only bucket which we have created, right? So that is what we have done over here, right? Now we have this log file SSE KMS encryption, which we do not want to enable because we are doing customize encryption for the objects which are going to be stored inside the S3 bucket with the help of KMS, and we are creating this trail with the help of the CloudTrail so that we'll be able to store the events inside the Amazon S3 bucket of the KMS. So that's why we are just untick this particular thing so that we are disabling this. Now leave the rest as default and just click on the next button. Now we have to choose the log events over here. So in this particular event type, you can check this both the management events as well as the data events. So it will capture the management operations performed by your AWS resources, and it will also capture the resource operation performed or on within a particular resource, like S3 is a resource, RDS is a resource, we have multiple, EC2 instance is a resource. So those activities, those events will also be captured by this particular CloudTrail, right? So you have to check these two things. In this particular management events, read and write activities we want to capture, and then we have the data events option over here. Now in this data events, these data events will show the information about the resource operations performed within a particular resource. Maybe it can be an S3, it can be your other AWS resource, right? So we'll be switch to the basic event selectors, and let's click on this continue. So we have now this Amazon S3 event source over here. You can see over here data event is the S3 and data event source is our S3 bucket over here, right? And you should just check that this read and write should be a tick mark for the S3 bucket, because if you're reading something inside Amazon S3 or writing something inside Amazon S3, all these things will be captured by this particular CloudTrail which you are creating, right? Now from here, data event source is S3, read and write, and why it is not enabling us to use this data event type. Okay, let me remove this. Switch to advanced. Data source should be Amazon S3 all events. Okay, let me just basic event selectors. Okay, click on next, and now these are the details for the review whatever you have created so far, and then let's just click on this create trail option. Now we have done three things over here. We have created an encryption key, a symmetric key, then we have created an S3 bucket with the help of simple storage service, and third we have created a CloudTrail. So what we have done so far, we have created a key. With the help of that particular key, we are going to encrypt the objects of simple storage service. Second, we have created an S3 bucket in which we are going to store the objects, we are going to store the data, and with the help of that particular KMS key, we will be encrypting that object inside this S3 bucket. Okay. Bucket encryption KMS keys, you can see AWS log file folder has been already created over here. By default, it is created with the by your CloudTrail service basically. Now we are inside this Amazon S3, and inside this bucket encryption key bucket we have created over here, right? So let's just click on the upload button over here, and let's try to upload some files over here. Let me add one file over here, and the file lets me just uh, this AWS logo. Let's upload this AWS logo over here, and now we have the destination details over here, where you have the multiple options over here. So our bucket versioning, default encryption type, and your object lock over here. And then we have this properties over here. With the help in these particular properties, we have to choose that particular storage where we want to upload that particular object. You can see that by default standard storage class it's selected over here, so no issues in that as well. Okay, now let me just click on this upload button, and that object will be uploaded inside this Amazon S3 bucket. So this is our object. You can see over here, you can see, let me just close this, and let me just select this, or let me just open this and go to the properties section over here, and let me just scroll down a little bit, so that we will have this option of server side encryption settings. So we will be going to edit the encryption settings for this particular object over here. So we have this server side encryption, in which we will be override the bucket settings for the default encryption, right? Because we are going to select that server side encryption using the key management service from here. Okay, now we will be choosing the keys from our AWS account. The key we have created, was first KMS key we have created. We are going to encrypt the particular object which we have created, the AWS logo, with the help of that KMS key which we have created basically, right? So the last modified time, you can see over here, this is the last modified time over here. Let me just paste this as well. Why my notepad is not opening? Okay, let me again open this notepad. Okay, I have copied this last modified time in my notepad, and let me just click on save changes. Okay, now let's try to access the encrypted object. So we are inside the AWS logo PNG, and let me just click on this open. Now you can see the object is accessible from the browser over here, right? So what happens behind the scenes when we are opening this particular object, that Amazon S3 sends the encrypted data to AWS KMS, AWS Key Management Service. Let me just open my Microsoft board, and let me explain you what happens behind the scenes basically. So what happens, so we have created an S3 bucket. Okay, in this S3 bucket we have upload an object which is our AWS logo, and when we try to open this particular object in our browser, what happens behind the scene, BTS, which is behind the scene, Amazon S3 sends the encrypted data. I'm writing over here, encrypted data to AWS Key Management Service. While we are opening this particular object, Amazon S3 is sending the encrypted data to the AWS KMS. This AWS KMS now decrypt the key by using the particular master key we have created, and it will send the plain text key back to the Amazon S3. That is what the process of the encryption basically, right? So the data, if the data is A, you are sending to a person B, and this A is having data as hello, and if this A wants to send this data to this B, and if B is receiving the same data hello, but in between the data will be transferred to the cipher text, because of the encryption key which is by this particular person A to encrypt the data. Basically, that is what the concept of your encryption. We are not going to deep dive inside that particular concept, but as per your understanding that when we are trying to open this particular object or this logo image of AWS, S3 is sending the encrypted data to the KMS. KMS is now doing the encryption and the decryption part, and it is sending back to the Amazon S3. Now this Amazon S3 will decrypt the cipher text and remove the plain text data key from the memory as soon as possible. And that's why we will be able to see that particular image. Now let me just go again to the picture part, and let me just cross this over here. Now let me just copy the object URL, and if we are going to paste it in a new tab of this particular object URL, let me just paste it over here. Now you can see the access denied message we are getting over here. Now how to remove this particular access? Let me just go to the object again, and let's go to the permissions over here. Now you can see over here we have the access control list permissions over here. Okay, let me just click on this edit and read right. And apart from that, okay, block public access settings should be turned off first. Let me turn it on and save the changes and confirm. So we are confirming that if we will be accessing this particular object with the help of object URL from the public internet, we will be able to open that thing, right? That is what we have opened that to public. Let me again go to the bucket and to that particular logo PNG, go to the permissions. Now in this particular edit, and now you have to provide the read permissions to the public from here, and just click on that I understand the effect of these changes. And if you again go to that and if you refresh it, you will be sorry, invalid argument. You can see the request specifying server-side encryption with KMS managed keys requires AWS signature version 4. So it is required now AWS signature version 4. This is because the picture is encrypted and we are not able to view it using the public link. That is what the message I want to convey over here. Because if it was the normal object, and if you do perform the same operation which I have performed, that I have turned on the public access, and I have also given the public access using the access control list, we were able to access this particular object. But as of now it is saying that we need the AWS signature for to access this particular object, because the picture is encrypted. That's why we are not able to use with the public link. So if we are uploading or accessing objects encrypted by the server-side encryption key management service, we need to use AWS signature version 4 for added security part. Fine, that is another concept. Now let's move towards the CloudTrail logs, and let's try to monitor the activities which we are performing, right? So let me just go to the S3 again. And now if you go to the bucket, you will able to see some AWS logos files. These are already created. You can see CloudTrail files are already created inside this particular region in which we are, US East 1 we are. So in case if in your system you will not able to see any objects under this CloudTrail, we can wait for a while maybe. Let me just, okay, so you can see some objects are created by the CloudTrail service, year in the form of year, month and date, one after the other. So we are able to see the CloudTrail logs over here. So we can click on this log file to see the last modified time over here. See, the time has been given over here, the ARN has been given over here. You can see over here everything is given over here in terms of this particular log file which is created by this particular CloudTrail service. So you can see some records are being record by the CloudTrail user identity over here, type from the root account we are accessing from this particular account ID has been accessed. This is the access key ID. We have bucket encryption KMS key. Let me just make it a little bit big. You can see our bucket name over here. It will be converted to the cipher text. So you can see this is the signature version SIGV for which we can use to access that particular object. You can see that is also being created by the KMS as well, right? So we have seen that how we can create uh, the S3 bucket, how we can encrypt the S3 resources with the help of the AWS key management service, and how we can monitor the logs with the help of the CloudTrail. If you again go to the CloudTrail service, you will be able to see the logs as well. So whatever the API activities you are performing inside your account and on those particular resources, you can see over here. Let me just see event history. So you can see those are the things which we have done so far. You can see create key we have created bucket policy, and all these things we have done. So you can see the date is also been over here and the time has also been over here. Root is the username which we are trying to access. These are the event source which are happening. So this is how we can perform this entire activity, and now we have learned that how we can encrypt an S3 bucket using the AWS key management service, and how we can monitor the activities using the CloudTrail. Okay, so I hope everyone enjoyed this session and got some insights in this particular lab session of S3 bucket, encryption of the S3 bucket using KMS and the CloudTrail. If you like the video, do like and subscribe my channel, Cloudbyveer, and please share with it your other folks as well. Thank you so much for watching the video. Have a good day.